Welcome to Casey Cares. We're Kansas City's nonprofit voice, and we're telling the stories of Kansas City nonprofits and the people behind them. Casey Cares is the intersection of the nonprofit and profit communities, making Kansas City a better place to live, work, and play. This Casey Cares segment is brought to you by the Ewing Marion Kaufman Foundation, www.kaufman.org. I'm your host, Ruth Baum-Biggis. Our guest today is well known for his prowess on the football field. For diehard Kansas City fans, long snapper Kendall Gammon spent 6 of his 15 years in the NFL right here. He played in a Super Bowl, Super Bowl 30, and a Pro Bowl, and he's in the Kansas Sports Hall of Fame. Kendall's leadership skills, however, developed very strongly during his college years playing football at Pittsburgh State University. He was team captain for 2 years and was part of the 1991 NCAA Division II National Championship team. He's now a special assistant to the president at Pitt State. And as a broadcaster for the Chiefs radio network for 12 years, Kendall led the way as color commentator. He now hosts his own pregame show during football season on 101 The Fox. A father, a husband, a family guy, and a veteran juggler. Kendall has learned the importance of leadership in getting things done. And that's what brings him to Casey Cares today, as he serves as Chief Development Officer for War Horses for Veterans. This nonprofit is focused on equipping active military and veterans, special op forces, and first responders for success through horsemanship. Its mantra is recover, repurpose, reintegrate. Hold on to your hats as we dive into this unique organization. Kendall, welcome to Casey Cares. It's great to have you on the show.
Ruth, it's my great pleasure as well. Appreciate you having me. It's good to see you again.
Well, tell us about horses. We got to go way back, because you had told me one point you were not a rider. Horses were not your thing. So tell us about this whole journey and how it started for you.
Yeah, exactly. No, I wasn't a horse guy. I'd maybe been around a horse once or twice in my life. But about 1.5 years ago, a friend of mine who was a home health nurse was out at War Horses for Veterans caring for one of the co-founders who had had a hip replacement. And she saw what they were doing, and she knew me and what I speak about, and she thought the two were very similar. So she thought that I needed to get out there and meet Pat and Andy Brown, the co-founders of War Horses for Veterans. And as I do sometimes, I drug my feet a little bit. And finally, one day she called. She's like, "Listen, are you getting out there or not?" I was like, "Okay, I apologize. I'm getting out there." So I did. And I was touring on a Thursday, and they were showing me around everything. And they had a group of Navy SEALs. And then they started, the folks that were giving me the tour started asking me what I speak about. So I told them about leadership, team building, about, mindset, told them about, dealing with, past issues from a childhood and trauma, things like that. And they realized that the two really intersected in terms of what they were trying to do with veterans and first responders that they bring in from all over the U.S. So by the time I left, Ruth, I was booked to speak to the Navy SEAL group on Saturday. That I've spoken to every group since and just tried to be integrated in it. But I didn't come on full time as helping raise funds as development officer for them until probably 6 months ago. And it's just been fabulous. I mean, I just get a sense of purpose and really when I speak to every group that comes in, and we talk about a lot of different things, and I found out that the NFL and what we do, while we don't deal with life and death like they do, we have a lot of similarities, a lot of parallels in our career and how we feel. And so I speak to them, and it's very empowering. It's cathartic for me. They tell me time and time again that I connect with them. And so that's very nice. And in general, I'm not very intimidated to speak to anybody, but I am very humbled when I have a chance to speak to first responders and vets, because they allowed me to make something as trivial as a football important in my life, and allowed me to make a living at it. So I have the utmost respect for what they do for our country.
So I would think one of the lessons learned from that is when a friend asks you to go do something, go do it.
You're exactly right. I can be a tremendous procrastinator at times or whatever, but having done what I've done for 15 years in the NFL, my last 7 with the Chiefs, and then on the radio network, you get a lot of requests, and sometimes things just kind of fall by the wayside. And unfortunately, I let that fall for a little while, not too long, but I was quickly corrected, and then I got on it, and it's just been fabulous ever since. It's just a really great thing. And just for folks who don't know horses and what they do, and how intuitive they are and how they connect, you get close to a horse, they can sync with your heart rate, and the fact that they reflect your feelings back. So you get on a horse, it knows it understands intuitively what you're thinking. You've got to understand that this is this big 1,200 pound animal who can feel a fly on its back. So, I mean, they are so sensitive. And so you learn to breathe, you learn to communicate, you try to learn the personality of the horse. And it's something that really helps with our participants that come in, because they're dealing with trauma that nobody should have to ever deal with. And yet they've not only dealt with it, but they've dealt with it maybe on a daily basis for years, if not decades. So to be able to come in and listen, you don't cure anybody of anything in a week, but you get them started. You get them starting to think about what's going on and how can I make myself better. And it's fun to see the men or women who come in and watch them decompress at times. Of course, we have therapists around, and then the folks that teach the horsemanship. They talk with them as well. We do a communication course. We try to teach our participants how they communicate, and then conversely, try to make them aware of how others communicate, and understand how the two coalesce or don't coalesce, and how you need to deal with that. So many different things there on the communication side of it is so very important. And we have about 50 acres out there in South Johnson County. We have about 24 horses on hand. They stay in bunkhouses. We have professional chefs that come into our kitchen and prepare meals 3 times a day. They get up, they take care of the horses. We do different things throughout the week that we can talk about here in a minute. And it is a therapeutic escape to hopefully get their mindset started in a different direction if they so be, or if they so choose.
Well, let's dive down a little deeper into what's offered. So it's a 5-day program. Tell us, from the time someone arrives, what that week is like, and how you all try to do the reset, as it were.
Yeah, they generally come in on a Sunday evening. They have dinner, and then we have 5 days, Monday through Friday, and then they leave Saturday morning. All expenses paid, the air trip, everything. And the first day, they just get around the horses. Of course, every day they wake up and they do the chores, and clean the stalls, everything, care for the horses, which is, if you haven't done, it's unbelievably therapeutic. And I wouldn't, I almost enjoy that as much as I do riding on the horse itself. But you're doing that throughout the week. To begin with, we have a e-collars course where we learn about our own communication style, and then we learn about others' communication style. And then they get into being around the horses. They get in the round pen. They learn to work with the horse through nonverbal cues and breathing, and getting the horse going in a round pen. Walk, jog, trot, lope. Get the horse to come to them, and you get to a certain degree to where you can do everything in the round pen with the horse without ever saying a word. Just in terms of how you release pressure, stepping away from the horse, how you breathe, how you think. And it's the darndest thing, quite honestly, because I had one group of sharpshooters come in that I was talking with one time, and one gentleman in particular just talked about the fact that, Kendall, I got in there, and I just, they told me to tell the horse to slow down and stop and then come to me, but just say it in my mind, don't say it out loud. And I did it, and Kendall, that damn horse did exactly what I was thinking. And I believed him, obviously, but I've not done it before. But then I've been in the pen, and I can get in there with the horses and do all the same things non-verbally, never saying a word. And it really is amazing. And a lot of people understand that the horses are used for different therapeutic purposes with children with special needs and all kinds of different trauma. So it's not surprising after you delve into it. But anyhow, that's early in the week. We quickly get them on bareback riding, and then they learn to ride in the saddle. We work on those things, and then towards the end of the week, we actually get them roping a dummy steer that's being pulled around on an ATV, and they learn to do that, then at the end of the week they may take a trail ride with our co-founder Andy Brown, which is like a three hour ride into pastures and the wildlife, which is different than riding in the stables, because we have an indoor arena and an outdoor, and it's just fabulous. And you have things happen during the horsemanship. You have things happen because we all eat together as a group in breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and you just that's one of the many times that you get to connect. And sometimes we have groups come in that know each other. Sometimes we have groups come in where nobody knows each other, but everybody throughout the week coalesces, and it's a wonderful experience. For us, we feel fortunate to be able to be a part of it. And again, I mean, I'm very much the least part of it. I mean, you've got Andy and Patricia Brown, you've got Brett Courtwright, our executive director, you've got Judge Jacob Greenleaf, who is our ranch manager, and Jay, who handles our media. He takes pictures, video, he does all kinds of different things, which is phenomenal. If you go to WHFV.org, warhorsesforveterans.org, you can see some of the wonderful things on there. But it is, no pun intended, it is a wonderful ride.
I like that. I think you shared with me also that, you were pretty humbled by getting on a horse and doing this. I mean, to me, it's amazing that people who maybe have never been around horses in this kind of close proximity will get on them bareback. And I imagine that's, again, part of communication and connection to do that first. What was it like for you? You're a big guy. You've played football. You're tough, and like with these folks that are coming to your program, just yourself, what was that experience like? And even you've watched others.
Yeah, I'm glad you reminded me of that, because, myself, or when you get others around it, for our participants, a lot of them, most of them are type A. They're used to controlling their environment. It's life or death at times. And now all of a sudden they're around a 1,000-pound, 1,200-pound rocket ship that they understand they can't control. And that's different for them. It was different for me. And so you understand you're going to have to communicate. You're going to have to be aware of this horse and what it's doing, and try to meet it halfway and work together, as opposed to calling the shots all the time. And that's something that's difficult for a lot of type A personalities, because, again, they are used to controlling the world, because quite honestly, they have to at times. But, as I've had a few, actually more than I wish I'd had tell me, is, the military, first responders, sometimes they teach you a lot about going into battle, going into these things, not so good about when you get out of it and get done and decompress and whatever. They're just more interested in the first part. And it happens. And I'm not getting on anybody, but that's a part of it where we try to help as much as we can in whatever fashion we can to get them started. And again, as I said, you don't cure anybody in a week, but you get them thinking. And we've had different participants that they go home, and of course we have follow up with them. We're developing a digital platform so we can keep a sense of community when they leave, and developing a platform that will be kind of a LinkedIn of sorts for veterans and first responders, and giving them resources, and actually having on different therapy sessions for different groups that aren't even us, because it's not a contest to see if we can get the most people. We've got plenty of people lined up, and we're always taking more the best we can, but we can't service everybody, and other people need different things. So we want to help out with that. But again, going back to the original question, is just getting them to understand, and I guess let go at times. And, we have a lot of folks that come in, and that it's not until, maybe Thursday afternoon that they really start to relax. And, one horse that I ride particularly a lot, is his name's Tank, and he's on loan to us, and he's just a great horse. And he knows what's going on, and you can really sense it. And it's good for me, because I'm not that, skilled on the horseman. So I think he forgives some of my mistakes. But, when I've gone on trail rides, all of a sudden we're going to go a certain place, and it's down a ravine that I'm not sure I would go on foot, let alone thinking I would want to go on a horse. But, the other folks go in front of me, and I'm like, well, I guess I can do it. And I mean, literally, I'll say out loud, like, okay, Tank, you're going to have to take care of this one because I got no clue what's going on. And as they say, the horse finds its footing, and it does, and it takes you down. And I remember talking to one first responder going down, and it was the same way. And he said that was an epiphany for him because he understood at that point in time, okay, he doesn't have all the answers. He can't control everything. And sometimes he does have to rely on other people, and in this case, other animals, to take care of him and have a trust. And that's easier said than done, quite honestly, especially if you've had traumatic events. So, that's just kind of a quick dive into things. You could go deeper and deeper, but it is something that when our participants talk about these things openly, and we have sessions at night that are very informal, around a campfire, around the waterfall we have, and things like that. The fact that they talk about it openly and we start to share our feelings, because I always talk about the fact of, I'm a big Brene Brown fan, and the fact of being vulnerable. And, I always talk about the puzzle, as we connect, if we decide to do 100-piece puzzle with all the pieces turned over, well, the only way you could delineate things is by shape and what you see on the outside, which would be either an internal piece or an edge piece or a corner piece. And that's the best you could do. And what I talk about is you got to turn the piece over. You got to show what's inside. You've got to work to find out what's inside of others as well. And now, even if you don't exactly put the pieces together, you can figure out by what's inside the puzzle piece, what's in there internally, of how you group people, and you can start to put the puzzle together, even if you never do it. And then the other thing with that on the puzzle analogy is the fact of, how do you communicate? Can you connect on all four sides? Like an internal piece, or do you only connect on two, like a corner, or three, like an edge? And the fact is, sometimes we look down on people because they don't communicate as well. Yet those are, if you look at it, the puzzle, what do you start with? You start with the edges and the corners and say they define the puzzle, they define the edge. And so just because somebody doesn't communicate a certain way doesn't mean that they're any more or less important. In fact, quite honestly, I've spoken to several corporations where the CEO is probably a corner or an edge piece. He communicates well with a few people, but he couldn't be the teller at the bank. That just wouldn't be him. So it all depends on what you're doing. And again, the self-realization of who you are, what you are, how you connect with people, how people connect with you, how you control yourself, how you give up control at times. All those different things are so very important.
We're talking with Kendall Gammon, former Kansas City chief, but many, many other titles, et cetera. And this one, we're talking about War Horses for Veterans. About how many folks have you all worked with, and are you running this like every week?
No, we've worked with. I think we're well over 1,000 now. When you talk about first responders and veterans, now we're working with fewer participants a year now, but we've taken the course up. It used to be with the first responders, we'd only do a day or two, and we went through a lot. And we felt like that was shortchanging it because of a lot of different reasons. So now they come in for a week. This year we'll do 14 groups. We generally have no more than 6 new participants, but we always invite folks who've been in before to come back and as alumni and bring somebody, be a mentor. And then we have world championship horse trainers and horse riders who come in and give of their time, either number one, because maybe they're a veteran, or number two, more importantly, is they see what we're doing, they connect with it, they believe in it. And we have folks who again, are like literally 27-time world champions who come up from Texas or come up from Oklahoma and their ranch, and they work for a week with our individuals, our participants, and that's a really cool thing. So it's just something. I've got several hashtags, and one I have all the time in social media is make a difference, that's what we're trying to do. We're just trying to help others. And of course, the other one is laces out, which as I snapped a ball each and every time, it rotated 3.5 revolutions. So the laces were out each and every time. So the kicker didn't kick a spinning ball, or he didn't kick the laces. And the whole lesson in that is facilitate the success of others, help others be successful. With team success comes individual accolades. So, working to help others, but also working to help yourself as well, I think is very important.
I want to talk a little bit about you had great leadership skills coming into this, more in the, I would say, the for profit type of world or educational.
Mhm.
Talk a little bit about how you transfer or what was applicable from that to the nonprofit arena and what you're doing now.
I think a lot of it comes down to finding folks who have a philanthropic giving heart and being able to identify that somehow. I don't know completely how I do, but I can tell with folks, and you probably understand that. And I don't know how I do it. Some folks, it's just not completely them, and that's fine. And then some folks, they would love to give, but they don't actually have the capacity. Just finding that out. But really, I mean, I guess really being in with Pittsburgh State University, that's the nonprofit as well as in terms of giving to
Right.
facilities, giving to scholarships, and really, I've helped organize about 55 million in giving with Pittsburgh State, and very rarely did I
Wow.
ask for money. What I did was present opportunities to folks, and literally, I've had people who, if I name the names, you would know who they are. People would know who they are. Who have given seven figures, and the first number is not a one or a two, and they literally thank me for getting in touch with them because they're giving and making a difference with the life of others. They feel has enriched their life, and then they make the comment oftentimes, which is, we just decided that if we give this gift, and it's a seven-figure gift, if we give this, it's not going to change our day-to-day life in any fashion, but it's completely going to change the life of somebody else, and that's something we want to do. And that's a beautiful thing. That's what I really think the human spirit is when you have a chance to help people for no other reason than it's the right thing to do. I think that's when people connect. A lot of people don't know, I tell this story when I talk. My 7 years with the Chiefs, before the games, after I warmed up and it snapped, I would get a game ball and I'd go find a kid in the crowd and give them a ball with their family. And it didn't matter if they were wearing that beautiful red jersey of the Kansas City Chiefs in Arrowhead, or if it was that dump in Oakland we used to play in. I would say, "Have you ever gotten a game ball before?" And they would invariably say no, or they invariably would say, and just look at me. And I would take that to mean no. I would give them the ball. I said, "I hope you enjoy this day." And so I gave out hundreds of balls. Nobody knew about the press, my family, nobody. I did it for no other reason than I wanted to make a difference with somebody. And then once I started speaking after football, I decided to incorporate the story. And, it's just really about, what, if you have a chance, whether you're getting compensated or anything monetarily or not, to do the right thing. Do the right thing, because even if you're not getting compensated monetarily, you're going to get compensated inside in terms of how you feel. Because what is it? Dr. Robert Emmons, he wrote a couple books. One is called Thank You. He talks about the power of gratitude, and when on a regular basis, when you show gratitude, when you help people, studies show that it actually affects the giver more than it affects the person who's getting it as well. So all of this, I think a lot of people know. We're not splitting atoms. It's just kind of reminding people of these things, because in this day and age of media, electronics, and everything, we're on it ourselves right now. In this day and age, life gets busy, and so you need reminders.
Well, you're giving a great reminder. And this is such an interesting and unique program because it combines the human being with the animal world.
Yeah.
And the interesting dynamic that are horses. I know there's research out there. I've done a little bit in terms of animal connection, primarily with dogs. Is another animal. I say dogs, horses. I think it's dolphins, and I think elephants. Even there is that ability to connect, and in this sense, you're using it in such a therapeutic way. Can you share a little bit about follow up with these folks that have come through, and do any of them kind of come back to help with the program?
They do, actually. So we invite our alumni to come back, and we want them to bring somebody, a mentor if possible. And that happens a lot. So when I say we only have 6 participants in a group, we may have actually 12 to 14 people on horses in some fashion. Right. But we also say that, when we don't have groups coming on, and a former participant wants to come back, if nobody's in the bunkhouse, they can stay free of charge. we'll feed them the best we can if we've got things going on. But if not, they're responsible for that. But they can do whatever they want. They can ride, they can clean the stalls, and you'd be surprised how everybody actually does like doing those different things. They can groom the horses. We've had one gentleman, he was a beat officer from Minneapolis. He has come back now maybe 3 times. He calls, he's like, you know what, I got a week off. I got 3 days off. Is there any way I can come down? We're like, yes, come on down. He comes down. We've got different things going on. He just keeps to himself. He does everything. He rides the horses during the day. He just decompresses. And so again, it's just, that's what it's there for. And again, this comes from Andy and Pat Brown and just their belief in wanting to help. And trust me, they've been unbelievably generous in terms of what they do. They don't ask anybody to give any more than they give themselves, which I think is a pretty neat deal. And they're just doing the right things for the right reasons. So again, getting the people to come back. We have a follow-up in 4 months. That being said, anytime people want to call and talk, we get on the phone with them. We have therapists if need be. There's some things that we can't handle, and we understand that. Not everybody can cure everything or be equipped for everything. So if there's a certain type of mental illness, if there's certain things that people are dealing with, we understand that we can't deal with that, and we try to push them somewhere else to get help, not push them away, but help them and guide them somewhere else. And that's what we're going to do when we get this digital platform up, which should be working by the end of August.
Oh, that's fantastic news. That's great news.
Absolutely.
We've got just a moment left. What would you say biggest challenge, and how are you dealing with it with war horses?
Quite honestly, right now we need to build a new barn. We've got 24 horses. Our temporary stables or horse stalls are almost dangerous. So, I mean, it's a nonprofit, and so you always need funding. And we're trying to get that last little bit so we can get this barn started. We will have 14 new horse stalls in there. It'll be closer to everything else. Wow. It would be better for the horses. So that's one thing I would encourage anybody. I mean, obviously, if this tugs you at you all, or if you want more information, if you go to whfv.org, you can find out information. You get contact information. My email is kendall@whfv.org, and we can tell you all about it. And if it hits you the right place, it's something you think that you want to help with, or that they think they want to help with, we would love that. But that's the one thing that's going on for sure right now.
Well, you're doing amazing work. You always do amazing work. What a lucky organization to have hit your heart, so to speak, and tug on your heartstrings and be out there and doing it. And I love the fact that you said, raising funds is really presenting opportunities, which you're really focused on. So, thanks for everything that you're doing. Next time, we're going to get into this whole juggling thing. We'll leave that as a mystery for the next time that Kendall comes back to talk about all the great stuff that he's involved in. Thank you for what you're doing and sharing your gifts in the community and sharing it here on the show. And again, it's War Horses for Veterans, WHFV.org. I was trying to do it off the top of my head. Always a dangerous thing. But thanks again, and check them out, folks. Thanks, Kendall, for giving us your time.
Well, thank you, and thank you to Casey Cares.
Thank you for joining us here on Casey Cares, Kansas City's nonprofit voice. We're produced by Charitable Communications. It's a nonprofit. This Casey Cares segment was brought to you by the Ewing Marion Kaufman Foundation, www.kaufman.org. If you'd like to be a guest on Casey Cares, check out our website, kccaresonline.org. And don't forget, you can spread the love, and you can find us on Facebook and Twitter at Casey Cares Radio, and on Instagram, Casey Cares Online. All Casey Cares episodes are available through YouTube, Spotify, and other platforms that you may catch podcasts. And don't forget, you can catch us on Saturday mornings at 8 a.m. on ESPN 1510 AM and 94.5 FM. Thank you for joining us here on Casey Cares.